Flexibly, here are the criteria. If it's not necessarily apostleship and it's not inspiration, what are the real reasons? First, it seems that the texts that at least these people believed were the most ancient and had the closest proximity to Jesus. Like I said, they wanted them to be traced back to the apostles. So even if they weren't, it's because that's what people believed about these texts. A second big reason was simply general acceptance. Apparently, the texts that were the most popular over a bigger geographical space tended to be the ones that got in. Now, it's true, there were different Gospels that were popular in different parts of the Mediterranean. So, for example, the Gospel of Thomas seems to have been especially popular in certain parts of the East. And in Rome, there'd be other documents, or different parts of the Roman Empire. But generally, as time went on, it seems like Christian leaders tried to include those Gospels, those documents that were more generally accepted. In fact, if you wanted to argue against, say, the letter of Hebrews being included, you could say, but all the people in the East don't accept the letter of Hebrews as part of their canon, so we shouldn't either. So general acceptance was big. But the most important criterion, this probably won't shock you, especially if you're as cynical as I am, theological acceptability. People tended to want to include the documents that matched their own theology. In other words, you believed something was apostolic if it taught stuff you believed. So, of course, documents that did teach that the Creator God was an evil, demonic God and not the Father of Jesus Christ, and there are early Christian documents that teach this, they were excluded. Why were they excluded? Well, some of them claimed to be by apostles. Nobody exactly knew how old they were. They were excluded because they taught a doctrine that other Christians thought was heretical and not accurate. So when you say, though, theological appropriateness is what ended up being the most important criterion for including stuff in the canon, you actually have to say then, appropriate to whom? And of course, that means you have a judgment call. But generally, the documents that came to be accepted were the ones that people we call the proto-orthodox. This is a term that Bart Ehrman uses in his textbook. You'll see it, and he explains what he means by this. In the 2nd century, you can't really use the term Orthodox Christianity versus heretical Christianity because there wasn't, orthodoxy hadn't been established yet. It was all in a state of flux. People believed all kinds of different things. And what this class will do is talk about how did what came Orthodox Christianity, how did it become Orthodox Christianity rather than one of the other kinds of Christianity. And we'll talk about that repeatedly. In the 2nd century, though, it's anachronistic to talk about Orthodox Christianity versus heretical Christianity. So what some scholars have done is create this word proto-orthodox. And all they mean is those Christians who believe the kinds of stuff that would later be proclaimed as orthodox in creeds and councils. So what happens was the people who were the Christians in the 2nd century and the 3rd century who resembled what later became Nicene Orthodox Christianity, they were the ones who had the most say eventually in what became part of the Bible. So in the end, the canon is a list of the winners in the historical debate to define Orthodox Christianity.